We're standing in the grounds of Government House in Sydney, which is long the home of the Governor of New South Wales. But in 1996, Bob Carr took the extraordinary decision to expel the governors from their purpose-built home. That decision has just been reversed after a 15-year campaign particularly by Australians for Constitutional Monarchy. I'm now going to put some questions to Lloyd Waddy, a former federal judge, who led the campaign in 1996 concerning the expulsion of the governors. Lloyd, do you remember when you first heard about moving the governor out of Government House?
Yes, I do. I woke up, in those days running ACM, you used to get phone calls early in the morning, and the phone went about 7 to ask me what I thought. And I had known about it at all. It was the middle of January, and I turned the radio on, and there was Bob Carr saying that there wouldn't be another governor, there'd be a part-time governor, that the new governor would be Gordon Samuels. He would keep running the Law Reform Commission and do something useful. He'd be a part-time governor, and he wouldn't need Government House. And that was all going to change, and country people didn't need to see governors. They weren't interested in that sort of thing, and he was very, very firm about it. Flown in the middle of his holiday, in the middle of January, thinking no one would listen, and then he signed off with a fatal statement. That's one for Jack Lang.
I remember that. I remember a photograph in the Sydney Morning Herald, and the new governor, Justice Samuels, was sitting in a throne, and Bob Carr was standing behind him, and he looked distinctly Svengali-like.
Absolutely.
And that's where he quipped, "This one's for Jack Lang," which of course referred to the dismissal of the governor by Jack Lang, by the governor many years ago. Were you aware at the time that there'd been discussions between Bob Carr and the then editor of the Sydney Morning Herald, John Alexander, not the John Alexander MP?
No,
This came out in a biography of Bob Carr, and it comes from his own diary, and he says they were having lunch in the Governor Macquarie Tower, and they looked down at Government House, and he said, "What a pity. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could return that to the people?" And Mr. Alexander apparently agreed.
Well, that was just nonsense. I mean, I spent 5 years here as an honorary ADC to Sir Roden Cutler, who was probably one of the longest serving and one of the most popular governors we ever had. He opened the house as often as he possibly could. He asked for extra security so the house could be opened up to the people more, but the government wouldn't provide it. It was absolute nonsense. It was always open. And in the old days, of course, they had levees, which the government ceased to fund, when anyone could come down here and pay their respect.
I remember that. I remember seeing a photograph of the then Chief Justice, Dr. Everett, who'd been leader of the Australian Labor Party, appearing in full robes, walking into Government House for the levee.
Yeah.
He looked magnificent, and the military and Air Force and naval officers were also uniformed. There was one other thing which resulted from that lunch, or seemed to result from that lunch. The Sydney Morning Herald then had a poll, which was, "Do you know this man?" And they showed a photograph of Rear Admiral Sinclair, and they then reported how many people didn't know who he was. And then they began to refer to him in the columns of the Sydney Morning Herald as the Chief Boy Scout, and you get the impression from that meeting in Governor Macquarie Tower that there may have been some sort of an agreed campaign between the Sydney Morning Herald and the Premier to undermine the governor.
I don't know how you could possibly suggest there'd be a liaison between the Sydney Morning Herald and the Labor Party or against anything. I mean, it didn't even know there was a monarchist group that were opposed to the Republic. That fair-minded group at the Sydney Morning Herald, I'm sure we just didn't get those pages delivered. Good. Now look, Sinclair is a very, very fine man, and he'd taken over in the tragic circumstances when dear old Sir David Martin died of emphysema, and he was known by everybody in New South Wales, and Sinclair stepped in on virtually a week's notice. In fact, I took him on his first outing to Parliament House.
A magnificent governor.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Lloyd. Those are marvellous recollections.
You've done a wonderful job getting Government House back. I congratulate you.